Coming up,
Our family's passion to serve authentic, original Italian beef.
Sylvia Perez takes you inside Buona Beef and gets the story behind Chicago's iconic Italian beef sandwich.
It was 1981 in Berwyn. Why we picked that location is because we all lived 6 blocks away.
Checking out some new local art in an unlikely place.
Even though after 40-some years knowing about my story, I still in tears.
And an unfortunate event in Chicago history gets the anniversary treatment.
Like a shot in the arm to wake people up that you cannot treat our natural resources this way.
It's the best Fox 32 stories of the week. You gotta see it.
Wait for a CTA bus and you just might meet a hero. The unsung heroes of Uptown are featured on bus shelters around the city. Portraits plus a QR code that connects the viewer to a detailed Chicago story.
Powerhouse of positivity. Her life is proof that if there's a will, there's definitely a way.
Artist Hannah Blue Chaussette met each person, heard their story, recorded, painted them, and brought them to the streets.
I thought this is perfect. I was doing a series of interviewing people from all over the city who I think are remarkable but uncelebrated. And I thought, what better place could there be but a bus shelter? Bring art into the streets.
31 bus shelters around Chicago tell a hero's journey.
I think it's the journey of going to freedom.
Eamon Wong Vien is the president of a financial institution. Scan the QR code and it reveals she nearly died escaping Vietnam in the 1970s as a teenager, living in refugee camps until reaching Chicago.
That even though after 40-some years knowing about my story, when I read it, I still in tears. I was so touched.
Now she helps thousands of immigrants and refugees as the co-founder of Chinese Mutual Aid Association.
People forget about the history, forgot the struggling of any individual, even come as a refugee or immigrants. And this is kind of more like a reminder of, everybody have a story.
I'm really trying to encourage people to see each other in a different way, to go behind the label, to see people for who they are, who we are inside. And this is an experience that awakens that curiosity, I think.
I can see all the expression in her brushstrokes here in her sweater. I love this.
The 151 bus stop spotlights a luminary.
That they want to take a picture with me right by the bus station. I was, oh wow, I'm thrilled.
You're a celebrity.
Yeah.
The hope with this project is that people will do less of this, staring at their phones, and more personal interaction. That's the beauty and the byproduct of this art. In Uptown, Joni Lum, Fox 32 Chicago.
Italian beef, the authentic Chicago sandwich.
It's a lot of beef, I love it.
Sweet bell peppers.
Wow, look at that. Ta-da!
Whether it's dry, dipped, fully dunked, or as they say, baptized, it all started in the Windy City.
How beautiful is that?
Ask any Chicagoan where they can find the best Italian beef, and you're going to get a variety of passionate answers. But there's one Chicago family that's been doing it for more than 40 years.
There's Joe, Carlo, John, Jimmy, and Don. And if you say those 5 names, you hit everybody.
Meet the Bonavolantos. You likely know them as Bona Beef.
This is truly about family, isn't it?
You may have heard earlier, but it was always my dad's dream to be in business with his sons. 43 years later, not only is he in business with his sons, but his 19 grandchildren.
Dad is Joe Bonavolanto. He and his wife Peggy started Bona Beef in 1981 after taking out a second mortgage on their home. And Joe Sr. actually dug the foundation of their very first restaurant in Berwyn. The goal was to have the family work together, so the 5 brothers minus their sister became the names and faces of Bona Beef, and they're still slicing up the recipe Dad and Mom perfected decades ago.
We use a top sirloin, and the top sirloin is the most flavorful piece of meat. We cook and slice about 5 million pounds of beef a year.
This plant in Bedford Park is where everything is made and packaged. Ask them the secret to their success and they'll tell you it's all about the gravy made from the beef drippings, released when the meat is slow roasted to perfection.
They're so passionate about this Italian beef that we kid around. We say that them two have beef gravy running through their veins and not blood. So
our Italian beef goes through a process. It takes about 6 hours to cook.
It's packaged and sold to retail and restaurants. But over the years, the company has grown with 36 restaurants that offer a lot more than Italian beef. And 3 generations of family members are now involved.
It's really the passion that we have and the family the 3 generations. It's a testament to our mother and father, how we were raised.
Italian beef in Chicago has a great history. It's said to date back to the early 1900s, when Italian Americans considered it an inexpensive food designed to feed as many people as possible. It has become a Chicago staple, but has seen a substantial rise in popularity after the release of the TV show The Bear.
25 pounds? No, I ordered 200.
That's increased the sales of Italian beef, and the Bona Beef family is feeling the impact.
our online business has been booming, and that's where we're getting a lot of people wanting to do franchises in other states right now. So we've been a beneficiary of the show.
And they've also benefited from their commitment to family. It was their family values that resulted in a beautiful marriage only possible here in Chicago. A collaboration with another Chicago staple, the original Rainbow Cone. Now, you can find several Bona locations with a rainbow cone attached.
It's your own personal rainbow cone. Enjoy. You're welcome.
I was looking for a company that could take this over, honor the legacy, but have a lot of young people.
Lynn Sapp's grandfather started Original Rainbow Cone 98 years ago at a small shack on the city's south side. It's the famous Chicago ice cream with 5 flavors that are sliced, not scooped. Lynn is a third-generation owner who was looking for a way to continue her family's legacy for another 100 years.
They are just so pleasant to deal with, and they have the same principles that I do, and they do it right. And they're going to guard the cone, I call it.
That collaboration has now expanded Rainbow Cone to several area locations and across the country. You can't get more Chicago than the Original Rainbow Cone and Bona Beef. So after a day of learning what makes Bona Beef's recipe for success, we could only toast in one way.
Italian beef toast. Italian beef for everyone.
Cheers.
Dig in.
Cheers.
Sylvia Perez, Fox 32, Chicago.
Welcome back. It is 6:42 on your Friday morning. Time for some fatherly wisdom, everybody. All right, like many other people, I had a number of long-term relationships until I found my wife, Maggie. We're about to celebrate 12 years. And during one such relationship quandary in my early 20s, I was talking to my dad about it, and a bit of his advice, whether he intended it to or not, it has stuck with me throughout the years. And I have since dubbed it the 85-15 rule. I think he just came up with it on the spot. But it was impactful enough on me that for this week's edition of My Dad Phil, I have asked my dad, longtime host of Chicago Tonight and former reporter for CBS 2, Phil Ponce, to come in here and elaborate on what he said and share with you, again, what I call the 85-15 rule. So, Dad, thank you again for coming in. You and Mom, you guys have been married for over 50 years now, right? So explain to us, what exactly is this formula and how did you come up with it?
Okay, it kind of evolved. Yeah, your mom and I have been married a long time. We were college sweethearts.
Yeah.
And I came up with this formula when I was thinking about my relationship with your mother, and here it is. Even in a really good relationship with a spouse, a friend, a significant other, there is a formula that goes something like this. No matter how much you love someone, there is going to be 15% about that person that you will not like and probably will never like. But that still means that there is about 85% about that person that you think is great.
For example?
Well, for example, your mother and I are pretty open about this, and she said I could talk about this on the air. I enjoy traveling. I enjoy getting excited about going to new places and oohing and ahhing about things that I see and gushing about things. Oh, the Sistine Chapel, isn't this amazing? And when she travels, she does not gush about things and may not even acknowledge them. Her enjoyment is internal. So as a result, I find myself saying, hey, do you like it here? Do you like the hotel? Do you like the food? And it's not that much fun when you're trying to generate enthusiasm in the person that you're with. So that makes traveling with her not that much fun. Okay, fine.
All right, so now that we've thrown her under the bus on the travel thing, talk about her 85%.
Okay, her 85% is amazing. I look at all those things about her. She's really smart. I think she's gorgeous. She has a fabulous sense of humor. She is a wildly gifted artist. She makes our home beautiful without having to spend a lot of money. She's an unbelievable chef, and she's probably the kindest person I know.
Agree.
The fact that she's a homebody and wants to spend her time at home painting, making her art, is not a deal breaker. It's just part of her 15%.
Her 15%. Okay, so to get people thinking, what are some other examples of what might be the 15% bad in an otherwise great relationship?
Oh, you know, it varies from person to person, obviously, but maybe it's how much socializing people want to do, how they express affection, their spending habits, how they interact with other people. I can see how these kinds of things can exist in someone in a relationship that is still really good.
Yeah, I know a lot of great relationships where the couple has a lot of roommate issues, like the level of cleanliness, the level of kind of like neatness in the house.
That's small.
Those aren't deal breakers, right?
No,
All right, so what is your advice if a person's 15% includes something kind of major, like a major personality flaw?
Well, that's a tricky question. If a person's 15% includes something major like negativity or abuse or some kind of addiction, well, to me, if it's one big thing that's dominating a relationship, that is a lot more than 15%, and that's why God invented therapists and family counselors. I think all of us can, we're okay if somebody has a 15% downside, but you have to decide, at what point do you bail from a relationship? When the negativity is 25%, 35%, 40%? It's a tough call.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so it's important to point out that we all of us have at least 15%.
At least.
Okay.
And if you were to ask your mom, she would come up with her own list of things about me that constitute that 15%. But somebody's putting up with you, so it's a good idea to sort of ask yourself, what is my 15%?
So, Dad, now that, we're on the travel thing, run us through, before we go, your 15%.
My 15%? Okay.
Do you know it? A lot of us don't even know our 15%.
No. I know some of it. I tend to overdo things. I can become obsessed with an activity like biking. It drives your mother crazy. I try to force square pegs into round hole. I can be pushy. And it is a family joke that I repeat myself over and over to make a point. Seriously, it has become a family joke that I repeat myself to make a point.
Thank you, Dad. All right, it's the 85-15 rule. Use it wisely. Dad, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it. As always, thank you, sir.
It was a warm and sunny August day, much like this one, when Chicago's Little Lady on an architectural tour passed underneath the Kinzie Street Bridge. What happened next? Here's my report from 20 years ago.
We have talked to the bus driver.
Chicago police today showed a surveillance photo of a bus carrying members of the Dave Matthews entourage to a concert in Wisconsin earlier this month as it crossed the Kinzie Street Bridge and allegedly dumped its septic tank on more than 100 passengers aboard the Chicago's Little Lady tour boat passing underneath. 20 years later, the Dave Matthews bus dump has become a stain on a city flush with history. Today, the exact spot of the slurry slam is marked by a sticker on the bridge, and for a time, an actual plaque provided by Riot Fest.
In those days, people didn't care about the river system the way they do now.
Margaret Frisbee runs Friends of the Chicago River, which received a $50,000 donation from the Dave Matthews Band after the sickening soaking, part of a $200,000 settlement. But more important, Frisbee says, is that it brought new attention to the goal of restoring the river.
Like a shot in the arm to wake people up that you cannot treat our natural resources this way, and that in this unfortunate incident, people were hit. But what it tells you, if one bus driver was pulling a lever like that, other people were doing it too.
That driver pleaded guilty to reckless conduct and was sentenced to community service and a fine. In a statement, a spokesman for Chicago's First Lady Cruises says there is certainly no joy in reliving the 2004 event that traumatized our passengers, crew, and family businesses. Our companies have provided acclaimed experiences on Chicago's waterways for more than 87 years, and we choose to not let what took place that day diminish our contributions in showcasing the city we love with the world. Today, many people walking over the century-old bridge have no idea they're treading untwisted history. You had never heard this story before?
Never, not in a million years. I
And
am
now that
27 years old, so 20 years ago is a...
Now that you know?
Woof, wow. I love Dave Matthews Band, but that is not what I wanted to hear. I mean, I feel bad for the people who were on that tour.
At the Kinsey Street Bridge, Dane Placco, Fox 32 Chicago.
Leo High School makes a powerful first impression on the first day of school. For new and returning students, the day started with warmth, support, and energy. Faculty, staff, and dozens of alumni greeted students at Leo High School, an all-male Catholic school in Auburn Gresham. Enrollment has been growing here, partly because of alumni support, raising money for scholarships so that quality Catholic education is accessible, and because of parent and community support. Incoming freshmen naturally have some trepidation starting at a new school, but all the adults are here to help and have throughout generations.
This is an exciting day for the kids. I mean, I know they might not look at with their first day. They're probably wishing they could get another couple of weeks of summer vacation, but they really do take these kids in like a family, and it's a wonderful experience, and it's been that way for 100 years.
Our students are going to be young African-American, young Latinx men a lot longer than they're going to be athletes. So we want to make sure we're instilling good character, we're instilling good values in them as they continue to pursue their athletic endeavors.
We've had a 100% graduation rate the last 12 years, and about 94% of our graduates have gone on to college. So I think our academic reputation is pretty solid.
Leo High School does start earlier than most other schools. They end their school year earlier too, and that means students can get a head start on summer jobs or preparing for college. Joni Lum, Fox 32, Chicago.
All eyes will be on Chicago later this month when the top Democrats arrive and make their campaign official. Events for the Democratic National Convention will take place primarily in two locations. During the day at McCormick Place, which will be open to the public, and the United Center at night, which will host the primetime speeches. Around these locations, some businesses say, bring on the extra traffic.
Well, we're kind of excited, to be honest. We're ready and prepared for everything. We've been preparing for the last few weeks.
How are you preparing? What are you guys gonna plan to do differently?
Well, we're definitely adding more seats outside. We're stocking up.
Wednesday night, DNC law enforcement and city leaders answered the public's questions in virtual meetings. There were lots of questions about security around the venues. The red zones are only open to delegates and those with credentials. The yellow areas open to cyclists, pedestrians, and cars, as long as you let Secret Service search your vehicle for explosives. As for protests, there will be a free speech zone for groups to book 45-minute blocks, and there will be a heavy police presence with officers in regular uniforms.
Nobody stationed outside with any type of external or extra gear.
For some that live and work around the venues, they're hoping to, skip the craziness.
It's going to be hectic, especially in this very area right here where we're standing right now. It's going to be very hectic. So I'm hoping maybe for those few days they let us just stay home because I don't even want to deal with it.
This new airline requirement is part of the FAA Reauthorization Act signed by President Biden earlier this year.
What you used to get was by default a trip credit. Now you're entitled to a refund, and the refund has to be automatic.
Kevin Brassler with Consumers Checkbook says that refund includes things like taxes and if you paid for extras like seat selection.
This is a big benefit, and it really does improve things in terms of it eliminates a lot of confusion about what happens when you're entitled to a refund.
At the end of the day, that's money that belongs to consumers, and if they paid it for a service that the airlines didn't provide them, then they need to provide a refund.
John Brayo is with the National Consumers League, a nonprofit consumers advocacy organization. He says the change is specifically for flights originating in the U.S. and notes that rules clearly define how long of a delay will trigger a refund.
A significantly delayed flight means a flight where the departure or arrival time is more than 3 hours domestically or 6 hours internationally. And so in addition to that, if the flight gets canceled, meaning the airline scheduled it, but then ended up not flying that flight, then you're also entitled to a full refund if you choose not to be rebooked or take a voucher.
He says the refunds will be given in the same way you paid and that you should see the refund in a timely manner.
For airlines, and this also applies to both airlines as well as travel agents and online travel agents, the prompt refund needs to be within 7 business days if the passenger paid by credit card, and within 20 days if passenger paid by cash or check.
An important note, if you do decide to cancel your trip based on a delay, make sure to notify your airline of your plans.
Don't just no-show, right? Make sure you tell the airline, I'm canceling my trip here. And the reason is if you no-show, different rules might apply.
Also changing for families, passengers traveling with small children can no longer be required to pay a fee to sit with their kids.
If they want to sit together with their small children, you have to somehow accommodate them without charging them a fee for the privilege of sitting next to their toddler. I've seen seats on international flights that are $95 or more. I've seen seats on domestic flights that are $35 or more.
Ultimately, the consumer advocates we spoke with say the change is about making sure your money is back with you and not left in potentially expiring travel credits.
Now airlines have to do what any other business does, and that is if we're owed a refund, to give us an actual refund.
Men are told over and over and over it's important to go to the doctor. What do you think are maybe 1 or 2 barriers that are preventing them from giving in and actually setting up that appointment?
I think a barrier is number 1, ego, right? Quite frankly, men, we have big egos. I think it's important to check it at times because it can get into a way of your health.
Dr. Kevin Stonewall is a resident at Northwestern Medicine, specializing in primary care. He says the second barrier is education, which is why he's encouraging more men to get involved in clinical trials.
A lot of men are suffering in silence, right? And again, if you're not having the best representation in the clinical trial, it's going to shoot right over into patient care, right? And this is why we have all these barriers, health disparity to begin with. One of many reasons.
For men that do go to the doctor, 37% of them withhold information because they're not ready to deal with the potential diagnosis if they told the truth.
When you hear the word cancer, you just hear finality. And I could not believe that it was me. It was happening to me.
According to the CDC, about 1 of every 8 American men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. On August 3rd of 2023, Reverend Jerome Weiser became part of that statistic.
Prostate cancer is not something that is discussed because it's a private thing for men, because it deals with downstairs in the basement. And nobody really wants to let anybody else know that there is a problem.
Weiser caught the cancer early due to his regular yearly physical. He admits when he was younger, he never used his insurance or went to the doctor.
All men, whether they say it or not, they do not want to talk about it. I'm on a mission to get my brothers into the doctors and to find out, because prostate cancer is treatable. We don't have to die from it. And you can live a normal life, but you got to research. Ask the doctors questions.
Reverend Weiser wasn't shy about discussing his treatment options with the team of doctors at the University of Illinois Cancer Center. He decided to participate in a study that included hormonal treatments in addition to radiation. He was declared cancer-free on April 24th of 2024, but thanks to his willingness to participate in trials, other men will benefit and possibly also see that positive outcome.
Having proper, appropriate representation in clinical trials is important for a number of reasons. Number 1, We all know that per group, whether it's gender, race, ethnicity, they have different outcomes for different conditions.
Here I am today, trying to get the word out. Men, go get yourselves checked out. I'm not a cancer survivor. As far as I'm concerned, when you're surviving something, that's just enough to get you through life. But I'm an overcomer, a cancer overcomer. Some men don't ever go to the doctor. And when we go to the doctor, sometimes it's often too late, or we don't want to hear the bad news. Hear the bad news and turn the table around and make it your victory. So yeah, Mr. Jackson, I'm on a mission.
Lord, I want to live on yonder, in bright mansions above, in bright mansions above, in bright mansions above. Lord, I want to live up yonder, in bright mansions.
Thanks for watching the Best of Fox 32 Chicago this week. Original Chicago stories that make you say, you gotta see it. Chicago Sports Insiders.
I am so excited. This is gold right now. It's gold.
Streaming now on your smart TV at Fox 32 on Fox Local, your home of the Bears team.
Every Bears game will be must-see TV.
Download Fox Local and get in the game now. Search Fox Local on these streaming platforms and start watching today.